there is one last piece of business. We do need, shout out to Jeff Banks, to hit Poll Assassin one more time. The final AP Top 25 poll of the season was released shortly after the national championship game. It was not out in time for us to be able to hit it on the Instant Reaction Pod or the CBS Sports Network show, but it is out now, to which I was wondering if anybody, but I saw you having this conversation on social media. How much do you think rankings should react to postseason results?
I mean, with the 12-team playoff now, I really just don't care about the end-of-season rankings, and I don't want to just torpedo this segment. But I mean, realistically, like your top 12 teams or so make the playoff 13 to 25, 13 to 45, argue amongst yourselves. But I do think it's important somewhat to keep it logically consistent. Like if Alabama, who had all their players play, loses to Michigan and they had all their guys opt out, that's probably not a team that should be rated above Michigan, especially when you figure like their last month of the season. Didn't look amazing against Auburn, lost to a legitimately bad Oklahoma team. Like that's
or they shouldn't be ahead of Illinois. Like that's what the AP Top 25 voters are like. Okay, Alabama had everybody play, lost to a Michigan team that opted out. Illinois had players opting out, and they beat South Carolina that had Lenore Sellers. We see Illinois move up. They finished at number 16 in the AP Top 25 poll for the season. Alabama one spot behind them at 17. Miami gets penalized again, for their performance in a loss in the Pop-Tart Bowl. They end up taking a spill. South Carolina, as we mentioned, they take a big drop. There are some other, spots where Oregon does not face a huge penalty. That is where the regular season body of work is still being respected. They were number 1 going into the playoff. They finished the year at number 3. The Georgia Bulldogs, they fall down to number 6. So, among teams that have 3 losses at the very end of the season, they don't even finish as the top one there. So Arizona State gets a big jump up. It's a very mixed bag in terms of what matters and what doesn't when it comes to making this final statement on the year. And I actually, Bud, do think the final AP Top 25 poll matters just for posterity and history purposes. We don't have a final college football playoff rankings. You could argue that it will determine coaches' raises or whatever. But just when we take the snapshot of the season, this final ranking will be what goes into Wikipedia. This final ranking will be sort of like how we define the year. So I am always interested to give it at least, 8 to 9 minutes to take a look at it in terms of, what it means moving forward.
Cosign 8 to 9 minutes. I think the SEC defenses got exposed in the bowl season, to be honest. Like a lot of the power ratings out there were like, wow, 12 or 13 of these SEC defenses are considerably improved from what they were in 2023. And I think the factually correct statement is no, the quarterback play in the SEC this year was way down. And thus, what the metrics aren't totally picking up. Like Sam Leavitt would have been, a top 2 quarterback in the SEC this year?
I mean,
he lit Texas ass up.
Right.
Who in the SEC would you take over Sam Leavitt for this season?
For this past season?
I would have him over Quinn Ewers. I thought he played better than Quinn did.
I think he was playing better than Quinn Ewers at the end of the season.
End of the year, yeah. Sam Leavitt.
I don't think he was all season.
Yeah, Sam Leavitt in September and Sam Leavitt in December were a different player. And that, shocker, redshirt freshmen get better as the year goes on. But I would agree with at least
I guess Dart people say in the chat, but to me, everything with Dart's just totally schemed up. I don't think you're gonna have any drop off to Austin Simmons at all with Ole Miss. I don't think Dart's anything special.
NFL guys are really kind of falling in love with Dart right now. Back to the poll. Texas has 3 losses. One of them was to Ohio State. Who were the other 2 to?
Oh, Georgia.
And who are they ranked 2 spots ahead of?
Yes, thank you. That makes no sense.
It's let's see, both of these teams, if you when you're putting your ballot together, you could be like, all right, well, Texas lost to the Ohio State team that won it all. Georgia lost to the Notre Dame team that got to the title game. So it's kind of similar losses as far as that. And it's but I'm still going to put Texas ahead of Georgia on my ballot, even though they have 2 losses to Georgia, just because I don't know. I guess the voters were ranking Georgia based on Gunnar Stockton, Georgia, instead of Carson Beck. I don't know.
Oh yeah, just in case they played again.
Just in case they have to play.
Is this a ranking or a forward roll?
That's what I'm saying.
It's a power ranking.
You never know.
And I'm kind of with Bud. I have no problem talking about it for 8 or 9 minutes, but I think it's really stupid. In fact, what Tom just mentioned makes zero sense whatsoever. You beat them twice, and your records are very similar, and you're ranked behind them. It doesn't. And if anything, you beat them in their backyard, and the second time you beat them without your starter for the whole second half. Like that should be even more of a case why you're the better football team than Texas is. Not to bag on Texas because I would have them just behind Georgia, but I don't understand how you explain that one away.
You going to be in studio with Zuck anytime soon?
No, is he the one that
you can ask him why he has Texas 3 and Georgia 6.
Oh boy. We might have some words.
We have to talk to Zuck when we see him next time about
Tell him we don't have the SEC anymore. That's what I want to tell him too. Like, slide somebody else in there.
Yeah, he's hey, listen, Zuck's a big fan of the show. Come on. Actually, you know what? That would be the ultimate button for Poll Assassin is for us to actually get an AP voter on here to take us through
their vote.
Yeah.
He no longer runs it, but let's just get Ralph Russo on here and yell at him about it.
Yeah, I know. He thought he escaped it by heading over to the Athletic, but no, we're still going to hold his feet to the fire on that one. Any other sort of movements or adjustments or things of note? It was for the most part a very similar 25. And look, we're not. I just finished the CBS Sports 134 yesterday. Looking at the count, looking at the changes, you're not going to have major adjustments based on one final data point. And for many of these teams, ones that were impacted by opt-outs, transfer portal, NFL draft, and the like. But anything else stand out about the final AP Top 25 poll?
Fine, I'll pull it up.
That might help.
I mean, not by the aggregate outside of what I just mentioned. There are some individual ballots where I'm just kind of like, all right, but I don't know. Like there are some people who you have to wonder, like, do they even really consider the bowl games when they put together their rankings? Because maybe they don't. Like maybe they sit there and say, well, this result doesn't really mean anything to me, so I'm not going to change it. And maybe that's why some voters have Illinois 5 spots behind South Carolina on their ballot.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How?
Derek Red of the Charleston Gazette Mail. He's also has Texas at 3, 2 spots ahead of Georgia.
Now, if I'm correct, that's West Virginia. That's West Virginia, Charleston, right? That is
Charleston, West Virginia.
Yeah, Charleston, West Virginia.
I was gonna say, like, if I had answered like South Carolina fans and I was a writer for that paper in that state, I would totally just lie and like I don't care. It's not really part of my job. Like I don't want to hear about it in my mentions over Christmas.
Yeah, like he's got South Carolina still at 18. He left Colorado at 19, even after they got crushed. Iowa State, he did manage to put ahead of Miami, but he still got Illinois at 23, which is where he had Illinois at the end of the regular season, which is why there's a part of me that's wondering why, or maybe he's just somebody who does not take the Bulls into account when it comes to his final rankings.
Would any of you guys think I was crazy if I made the case for Oregon at number 2?
No.
I mean, because that was one I looked at, and I get it. Like Notre Dame made it to the championship. They lost on the field, but they didn't beat them, which Oregon did. You've got some common opponents in there in Penn State as well, and they didn't lose to Northern Illinois. Like I was kind of thinking Oregon might make that case. I get it. And I think this is one where it just gets kind of lazy, where you just go 1-2. Those teams played right there. But I do think if Oregon played Notre Dame, there's the hypothetical that no one likes, then I do think I would take Oregon every single time. And path that we talked a lot about, Notre Dame did get to face Georgia with a backup, but they had their own issues too.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I think that I give Notre Dame to even I'm not defending laziness, but if you were to say they beat an Indiana team that I think is awesome, they still defeated a Georgia team that, even with Gunnar Stockton, Texas couldn't do that in the second half. You went on and you beat Penn State, granted not by the same margin as Oregon, but not that different. It was a different game, but still a 1-score game. And then, of course, you end up falling short. I do think that Notre Dame got quality wins added to its resume in the college football playoff that I think
clearly
certainly were among the best wins that they had all season. So I get that.
I would have Oregon at 3. I can understand an argument for 2, but the one interesting thing to me, and I tweeted this before, like a couple days ago, at least not interesting, but just funny to me, is that before the playoff, Oregon was the only undefeated team left in the country. After the playoff, they're the only 1-loss team left in the country.
I mean, maybe deserves a little respect.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
And that loss was to a team that they beat.
Right. They beat everyone on their schedule.
Mm-hmm.
That was the old, I think Auburn. There was an Auburn team that had that Georgia. Georgia lost to Auburn in November, but then they beat them in the SEC championship game. So Kirby Smart got to be out there and say, "Hey, look, we beat everybody on our schedule."
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting claim for the Oregon Ducks. Also, I saw an Oregon State fan in the tailgate mentioning, actually, final rankings mean a ton to us because we don't always finish in the top 25. And so when you get to say top 25 finish, they don't hang a banner necessarily, but it's like banner adjacent when you're at one of those programs that doesn't always finish in its final top 25.
What do you do if you're SMU, Indiana, Penn State, Georgia? Do you think it depends on the program, what you do put to denote that you made the college football playoff?
Yeah, you say college football playoff. It's the same way that basketball teams do with a Final Four.
Yeah.
But so Final Four, but even if you just make it and get bounced in the first round, you're still going to put.
Do you hang Sweet 16 banners in college? Like, I don't watch college basketball.
Indiana does.
Duke does not.
Yeah, Duke
does not.
It depends on how many banners you've got. And then they do a consolidated banner. Well, they'll say Sweet 16, and then you just list all the years on one banner.
Yeah.
At this point, I think that you hang a banner, especially if you're SMU and Indiana.
Right.
You know, like
but I don't know if Georgia's going to put like quarterfinals. Woo.
Yeah. No, you're more proud of your SEC championship.
Yes, that's the banner you hang.
That's the banner. That's
you guys going to be the long term, because like I think that like that kind of stuff's going, like the whole conference prize stuff's going to go away with mega conferences.
I think
like, I bet you we don't have an SEC title game in like 5 years.
Sure, but I mean, I still think for SEC fans, winning the SEC championship means something.
It's just so disconnected. Like, I mean, the schedules are so disparate. I'm like, cool, congrats, you won a conference title now. But like, that's not Georgia's fault. It's just the size of the conference means it's just very disconnected to me.
I think that's good, objective, cold-hearted analysis. But I'm talking
still
about
won it.
Yeah, yeah. That's really smart. I wasn't asking for smart, bud.
The schedule,
fine. All right.
I mean, no. Here,
we hit 8 minutes on this yet?
The SEC's been a 12-team league for how long? Even before expansion, they still only played 8 games. There's always been disparity between the schedules. They still celebrated the conference championship. I don't think that's going to change at all. Now, as far as what the priority is, maybe that will change. But just one last thing here, because I like I said, I would have Notre Dame at 2, Oregon at 3. But to the Notre Dame fans in the chat who are mad at Danny and they're talking about how Oregon lost by 20 to Ohio State on a neutral field, what might the final score of the title game have been had Emeka Egbuka not fumbled? Just gonna ask you to ask yourself that question. It was 31.
Why did the ratings peak at 26 but actually come in at 22?
Yeah,
because a lot of people, I think rightly so, turned that game off. And Notre Dame, to their credit, came back, but like it was very, very close to being a 3 or 4 score game.
I don't have any problem with Notre Dame being 2. I just brought it up because we needed 8 minutes.